So here's what we're going to talk about today. I'm going to just I'm a kind of like wing it girl. um, so bear with me. But what I wanted to talk about today is I know that some of you are going to be at different stages in your business, right? I mean, we all start somewhere. We all start at an idea. And in my experience as a mom, and with clients, working with clients that are moms, some of you may have started your business after you had been a stay at home mom. And some of my clients in the past that were there just felt, not 100% fulfilled and wanted to do something just for themselves. And that's where they started their business. And other clients I've worked with started as stay at home moms, but their family needed some more income and they didn't want to or couldn't go back to work outside the home, and they started their business. And then there's also those of us that were like me who were working in a corporate job and for one reason or another they really wanted to come home and be able to work from home, have that freedom to be there with their kids and all the things, right? Kind of find that balance between kind of being a stay-at-home mom and, still working. And all of those are beautiful and correct, right? And it's really whatever's best for you. And in this live stream, what I want to talk through is if you're in that third boat, especially if you're in the place where you're still either you're in your, I'm going to say corporate job, but that just means like a job, like a regular job outside the house, right? A regular job outside the house, a classic job, right? And you either are in the idea phase of like, I want to get home with my kids, but I still need to make money, or I still want to do something for myself. Or maybe I really love working, but I just don't like working for other people. Or like there's a billion different reasons that you might want to do that. Or it might be that, maybe you feel that you need to, but you rely on your income either fully, like maybe you need it fully with your partner, or you're solely responsible for your family's income, breadwinner, quote unquote, right? Which is the situation I was in and am in. All of those, if you're in that boat, this live is going to be for you, because I know what it's like and I was there. And for reasons I'm going to go into next week, I'm going to break down next week kind of a behind the scenes of like my journey transitioning from my last business to this business and why and all the things. But I'm here doing this again, right? And so life evolves. We evolve with it, right? I'll go into that next week. But I know that it can be particularly tricky if, if you're like, I need this money, right? I can't just quit my job and start this business, right? And on top of that, you're trying to just find like, how do I find the time even to work this job, full-time job maybe, and parent and try and figure out how to run a business or start a business or anything like that, right? And so I want to break down for you today kind of like, well, how I did it, right? And this is to say, this is one way, this is what worked for me. And this is not going to be a blow by blow, do this exactly. This is going to be like, these are the basics. And because I want you to be able to apply this to your situation, this is one way, one thing that works for me. So I want you to take what resonates and tweak what feels like it might need to be a little bit different. And obviously leave something if it doesn't feel like it resonates at all. And as I always say, if there's something here where you're like, that sounds interesting and that sounds helpful, but I have this other situation and I'm not sure how it fits into it, come talk to me, send me a DM and let's hop on a call and we can just chat through it. Okay. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to break this down and we're going to roll together because I did take some notes, but I'm also kind of just going to wing it. Okay, so stepping back a little bit, this now is taking us back to, 6 years ago. So in 2018, here's my story. In 2018, I was working full-time as a physician assistant in pediatrics. And for me, full-time at that job was 4 days a week for supposedly 8-hour days, but they were more like 10-hour days, honestly. Somewhere between 8 and 10-hour days, 4 8 and 10-hour days, right? And I was the sole income provider for my family. At that point, I was married. And we had 2 kids. My boys, who are now 8 and 10, they were 2 and 4, just a little bit older than 2 and 4. And my then husband at the time was going through some stuff and in between jobs and just wasn't able to get back into it. And things were getting really heavy at home. And to begin with, this is me, right? Not necessarily anything anybody needs to resonate with, but for me, I always knew that parenting was something that I really wanted to do. I actually, really felt strongly about wanting to be present with my kids when I had them. And I did work part-time for a while in medicine. I was able to work 3 days a week, and that was okay. It was a decent balance. But because that was when my then husband was working as well, and when he was not, and I needed to make some more money for us, right? I want to back up to full time. And it just didn't feel good for me at all. I wasn't getting fulfilled for what I wanted to do as a mother. I wasn't able to be there for the heavy stuff that my then husband was going through and my kids to keep things stable and all the things. And medicine that had fulfilled me and was really fascinating to me. I loved it, honestly, before I had my kids. It just wasn't fulfilling me anymore. It was emotionally and physically and mentally draining. And when I got home, I had barely anything left to give my kids. And that's just wasn't how I wanted to live my life. And I had so many too many days of crying kids off of my legs when I had to go to work. And it just found myself thinking, gosh, I'm spending 8-10 hours taking care of other kids who I care about deeply, but I don't have anything left to give my kids. All that to say, I can come back to this later, but I don't want to make it too much about why I did this. But here's about the how, okay? There's the why. I decided, and I had no intentions before this point of being an entrepreneur. I didn't even know all of this existed. I just knew this is not working and there's got to be another way, right? I feel very stuck and I'm unhappy and I'm just not going to accept that. So I, consequently came across some things around the online business and I tried to, Googling work from home and how do you do this and all the things, and came across virtual assisting. And I was like, what the hell is that? And so my first business I actually started as a VA, and it actually pretty quickly fell into and evolved into podcast production. And that grew into a podcast agency that grew up to a point of having 11 team members that were phenomenal and serving upwards of, I think it was close to 30 clients at one point from our team, and making multiple 6 figures in revenue a year, somewhere around I think 240,000 in revenue, something like that. It was definitely in the 25K plus in revenue a month, right? Not while I was working full time. All of that didn't happen, right? But we're going to go back to the start, right? So 2018. Let me get back on track here. Okay. So when I decided that I was going to start this business, I did sign up for a course at first of how to start a virtual assistant business, right? And it was helpful because I didn't even know this was there. But then I tried, that was in July of 2018. And I really struggled, honestly, to implement all the things. I'm trying, I'm posting the things, I'm talking to people. I even signed up for like it was supposed to be a group program. It was kind of more like just a paid Facebook group. Like, here, help each other. But none of us knew what was going on. Oh, I just noticed, by the way, I apologize for like up in the window there. Well, I don't need to apologize. It is what it is. But my kids sleep in my bed with me often. They want to come in here and they don't like that the light comes in. So there's a towel and some like, you can't see, there's some like wood things in the middle to block the light out between the shades. So I've got a washcloth hanging out up there. Let's see. Okay, so what was I saying? I was saying, oh yeah. I joined like I still felt I had invested some money in the course and wasn't making any money, wasn't getting any clients, few months in, wasn't getting anywhere. And I invested in that, small group coaching program. It was inexpensive because that feels less scary, right? Of like, okay, if I don't spend that much money, maybe that's okay, right? Because I'm not making any money yet. But it didn't actually help me because, again, I couldn't really figure out how to implement it. But what I ended up doing, I think I finally got my first client by November. So August, September. So about 4 months where I was trying to post things that I looked like other people were posting, and I was trying to talk to people, right? This is one thing I would say that I did learn from that period that I still use today, honestly, and I use it with my clients, is like the number one key to getting clients is to talk to more people and like build relationships with people. That's not like pitch to people. I actually didn't like that at all, the like cold DMing, cold email stuff. I don't teach that. But so I talked to people. I did get one client, right? And this is actually kind of how I fell into podcast editing, as a side note, is I was kind of in the phase of like, okay, if somebody will pay me to do it, I'll do it. And somebody asked if I could edit and upload their podcast, and I thought, I don't know, I've never done that before. I hadn't thought about it. So I Googled it and I YouTubed it, and I was like, I could figure that out. So I said, yeah, I could do that. And then she didn't actually end up hiring me. But funny enough, it got me into the podcast space. So I'm going to rein myself back in here. Okay. So just kind of situation. I was still working at my job as a PA because I needed that income. I was at the time making about $6,000 a month gross as a PA. And at the time, we owned a house and I felt like we really needed all of that money. And so that was my goal, to be able to replace my income so that I could be at home with the kids. Again, they were 2 and 4. We had almost no childcare. A little bit. I did have a little bit of help at that time from my then in-laws. But mostly they were home with me when I was home. And I was still, I was no longer breastfeeding, but I was still getting up at night. My kids didn't sleep through the night until they were like, I don't know, 4 or 5 each. And they wouldn't let dad put them to sleep. So that was on me. But I did it, and I'm going to break it down here, right? So the key things that I feel like were actually really important in being able to actually start bringing those clients and actually have a plan to an exit strategy, basically, for getting out of the PA medicine career and being able to support us with my business. There were, I would say, 3 keys. So one, and I'm going to break each of them down. The first one was having a really strong purpose, or why, you can call it. Second one was making a strong decision. And the third was intentionality. So I'm going to break each of those down. Okay, so the first one, I would say, when you're really making any big change, whether it is a career change or a change, like a healing change or a change in your health or diet or whatever, especially like building a business, change is hard, right? And so it's really important that you're really clear on why you're making that change. Why is it important to you, right? You're not going to be able to make this change very easily if you don't actually have a clear, strong grasp on like why you want that new thing, right? If it's just because somebody else told you that you should do it or that that's a thing, it's just not going to stick as much, right? Because that why and that purpose is really helpful to come back to on the days when it's hard, when it feels like it's not working, when it feels like you want to quit. This is for any change, right? And so for me, right? Well, let me ask you this first, right? For you, if you are still in a corporate job and you are starting to or are already starting to work on building your business, if you're not already clear on these, do a little journaling on it or thinking on it. I want you to ask yourself, why do you want to leave your current job and start this this new path as an entrepreneur? And actually, as a side note, or do you want to keep doing both, right? Because that's also okay. I didn't even talk about that at the beginning, but that's part of the freedom here, right? Is if you want to do both, but maybe you just need more space or more time, or like maybe you don't actually want to leave your career, then that's okay. Or if it's a part-time career and you like to do both, that's totally cool too, right? So don't make that wrong and just be clear on like why. And my suggestion is if the why and the purpose is because you feel lit up and fulfilled by both, or the especially if you're going to keep your other job, it's going to be more powerful if it's like, because I'm really passionate about doing that work, or I really love doing that work, or I like having multiple types of things going on, versus out of scarcity, right? The first one, sky's the limit, right? You can go quite far and be successful in both careers. The second one, if you're like, well, I want to hold on to both because I'm scared, because maybe I won't make enough money, or there's no way I'm going to be able to make enough money in online business to support my family, or I don't know, I've heard somebody said that it's scary to have your own business and it's not as stable. And, you know, what if, I don't know, there's no more internet or something, and then, I don't know, our brains go all these crazy places, right? Then I'm broke and homeless and all the things, right? In that case, it's going to actually be hard for you to become successful in your business because it's from a place of like closed off scarcity, right? So if you catch yourself there, just catch it and see if you can flip that thought, right? We don't beat ourselves up for unconscious thoughts. We just try and catch them and reframe them, right? We can thank the part of us that's afraid, send it some love, and then we can be like, we're okay, babe. We got this. For me, my why that was very clear for me was, well, one, I don't know. I just had this inner feeling of like, I need to be home right now, especially at this place of my life. I need to be home. This is not working. I'm miserable. The kids are miserable. If I'm at home, I can be there for them in the way that I wanted to be there. I can show up for them. I can show up and try and help my then husband at the time with what he was going through. And I just had this strong inner calling and I followed that. So the second part of kind of like, I feel like I'm jumping around a little bit in my notes. So give me a second to reframe my notes into a sense of order. Okay. I guess the decision piece was like kind of the next step from having a super clear why, right? You can be like, I don't know, I really want this because it will allow me to do this. It will allow my family to do this. It will allow whatever, right? Whatever that is for you. And then the next step is deciding. And it sounds a little silly at first, but it's really powerful, right? Deciding that it's available to you. Deciding that you're going to make it work and you're going to figure it out. You may not know the exact path or the exact timing because we never do, right? And deciding that you're going to take the opportunities that come up and you're going to get the support that you need. And that one way or another, if this is meant to be and this is as aligned as it feels, then it's going to happen, right? And that was extremely powerful for me too. I don't even think I realized I was doing it at the time. I think I just kind of naturally did it because I had such a strong why that I just decided of like, it was a little bit of my stubbornness of like, I'm gonna figure it out. That is something I'm really fucking good at. I'm gonna figure it out. Sometimes to a stubborn fault. But okay, so the third part's intentionality. And so I'm going to break down some of the practical stuff. So the part I needed to do here there are two pieces, right? One is getting clear on how much capacity you actually have to serve clients while you're working full time. And then another is getting really clear on money and like how much money that you need to be making to be able to leave your job. Excuse me. If that's your plan. And make a plan, right? Because we don't have endless time, right? We need to be intentional with our time when we are balancing all of these things. So for me, I was like trying to do it just kind of like throwing everything I have at it and like, okay, I'm just going to work in all the nooks and crannies and try and find clients and all the things. It was burning me out. So what I did was, okay, I looked at, this is kind of part of it's kind of built in together, right? So I kind of looked at, okay, I am the sole income provider for my family. I was at the time. I am now. If you are not, that's fine. But like, look at where your piece of income comes into play in your family, right? For me, I was making $6,000 a month gross, like I mentioned. And I will say at first I thought, there's no fucking way that I can do that. Making that much money as a VA or podcast manager, producer. And I'm lucky. I had a really wonderful coach who helped me map it out and showed me that I can. And I was like, oh, okay, I make this happen. But the key part here was deciding that I can. I'm going to figure it out, right? And we figured out the how. If this is something that's coming up for you, again, come talk to me. Let's map it out. I actually love doing this for other people too. So I knew that my end goal, like I needed to replace that income, right? And that's, again, gross, right? Now, in an ideal world, maybe you have the capacity in your career to go down to part-time as your business is growing. So in an ideal world, let's see, maybe this one's your corporate job, this one's your business. And as your business is growing, then you can back down your hours in your corporate job and eventually, fade out your corporate job and then you're fully in your business, right? And I quote air quotes fully because it's like the goal here for most of us is not actually working full-time hours, it's making a full-time income, right? In part-time hours, which is my specialty because that's what I decided was going to happen. And that's what I worked really hard to do. So, but not in all careers that's possible. In my job as a PA, that wasn't possible. So I needed to make a plan. And like, for example, if you're a teacher, that's not really possible, right? So, and as a teacher, for example, you probably have to finish out the year for the most part, right? Although I guess you don't have to. My son's teacher just left teaching, fairly last minute at the end of the summer, and they made it work. Because because she found another career that she felt more aligned with. And so that's an option too. But you're going to at least probably need some notice. I needed some jobs, it's only 2 weeks. For me, it was 2 months for my job in medicine. And I wasn't going to be able to phase down my hours. I needed to be able to be making enough in my business, at least, that I could, I don't know. Let me step back a minute. I'm going to talk about the time. Okay. So, because when I looked at then, okay, I've got this many hours I'm in the clinic. I'm doing mom stuff in the morning with the kids from this time to this time. And when I get home, I'm doing dinner and then bedtime from this time to this time. And then, yeah, at night, this is how I work. And this, oftentimes my kids still need me at night. So I looked at how much time I have, and I didn't have the time available. In that case, it was probably I think I had 10 to 12 hours a week total. And that was at both ends, doing for me at the time, I was working a couple hours in the morning. At the time, I think my kids maybe usually slept until 5:30 or 6, but they usually went to bed around 7, maybe even 6:30 when they were that little, 7. No matter how late I've let those kids stay up, they always get up early. So we just go to bed early too. And so I think at the time, if I remember correctly, I would get up and do some work between maybe 4 and whenever they woke up. And then I'd do the morning stuff with them. And then they would stay home with their dad, or they'd go to their in-laws. And their in-laws, my in-laws at the time. And I'd go to work at the clinic. And sometimes if I had a break on my lunch, I would be writing something or trying to, engage with people online. I started off on Facebook, and but otherwise I was at the clinic. And then when I got home, I would, touch base and do dinner and bedtime and all the things. And then after they went to bed, I usually from about 7 to 10, I want to say, or 8 to 11. Probably wasn't 8 to 11, probably 7 to 10. I would, sorry, Zoom keeps yelling at me about the speed. I would do some more work. So, like I said, that ended up being I don't know. Oh, and then on the weekend. So I was only working 4 days a week. So on that 5th day, I was working 4 full days a week. So the 5th day, I would work some more from home while the kids were usually around me. Usually, I'll have to pull up some pictures. I have some. They'd usually I had a mirror in there that they'd mess with, and they had a chair, and they'd sometimes listen to something or watch something on an iPad. Sometimes we brought blocks in and they'd play blocks or Legos on the floor. Sometimes I had a big whiteboard and they'd draw pictures on the floor. Sometimes they'd sit on my lap and play with the stuff too. And they usually wanted to hop on calls with people and on the weekends and things too. So weekends and that extra day I was not working, was just kind of working off and on with the kids while they were awake as well. So that ended up being, like I said, about 10 to 12 hours a week. So when you're looking at that, I had to look at, okay, how many hours of that 10 to 12 hours, am I using for other things, other business things? So creating content, I was probably taking about 2 hours a week to write content. I'm still pretty slow at it because I have so much to say and I have to pare it down. For some people that's much faster. And, so that's definitely not something that you need to aim for. It was just mine. Admin, billing stuff, coaching calls, because I did end up hiring a coach because I was overwhelmed and doing it on my own and I needed some help. And it was the best decision ever, even though this was probably in November. So I had one client. I had made $600 in my business. I had already invested $1,000 in the course. So plus I had to buy, I don't know if it was yet At one point I had to buy a new computer because my computer wasn't cutting it for the podcast work I was doing. Maybe that came a little bit later. Basically, I was like in the red so far. I wasn't making any money, and this coach was about $1,000 a month. But I again came back to my decision, right? Of like, all right, I'm deciding that I'm going to make this happen, and I'm going to trust myself that I'm going to make this happen. And it was really scary to choose to invest that kind of money, but I also know myself, and I knew that I needed that one-on-one support. I tried the course, I tried the group. It was just not what I needed. The one-on-one support was what I needed. And so I did end up using a credit card for the first. I'm not saying that you ever have to, right? But I thought, you know what, if I can make enough money in this next month to pay for this first month, then that's a win, right? And then I'll go 1 month at a time and 1 month at a time. And I did. I absolutely did. But anyway, coaching call was in there because that was once a week, most weeks in the time. And so how much time was left? However much time was left, it was definitely not enough to, when you multiply that, like see how many hours it takes you to serve a client and how much money you can charge. If you have questions about these, come talk to me. I can either do another live training or we can just chat on a call. By the way, I'll drop a link after the live. If any of you want to book a free coaching call with me, we can just hop on a call and we can chat through something about this and take it deeper. It was not enough. I didn't have enough time in that 10 hours or whatever to serve enough clients to make $6,000 a month. But what it came down to is I had to look at, okay, like that's how much I needed, $6,000 gross to live the way we were living, to live comfortably. I had to look at, okay, like what's the bare minimum like that I need to make that I can, maybe take savings into account. I don't even know if I had any savings at the time. I don't think we did. That came later. What's the bare minimum that I need to be making to at least like pay for our, Dave Ramsey calls them the 4 walls, right? Mortgage or rent, food, shelter, or like I said, shelter and the mortgage or rent, transportation, right? And like utilities, right? And for me, that was somewhere in the range of like $2,000. We were living in Las Vegas at the time, so I'm paying more now for rent for a 2-bedroom apartment in Portland area than I was in mortgage there, but that's okay, right? So for me, it was around $2,000. It was like, that was bare bones, like really tight. But if I can do that, then I could survive. And then, I'd know that as soon as I left my job as a PA, then all of that time that I was working, I'd have to expand my practice or my business and serve more clients. And then I already would have had clients and known how to do it. And like, okay, then I can fairly quickly get back up to the full-time, like the 6K, which I did. So that was the plan, right? And that was, again, a really strong deciding of like, I'm going to do this, but then I also have to ramp it up. And my first goal was to like replace my income, right? So the bare minimum was about $2K a month. And my plan was then to give notice into my job at that point and then just keep working the business and keep building on as much as I could until I could leave. Let's see, I started working with the coach in November. And my plan was like, all right, in the next 6 months, if I can get there, that'd be great. For me, I ended up actually giving my notice the day after Christmas. I did start to get clients really quickly right away, and I need to pull up the numbers, but I changed my phone number and I'm locked out of my QuickBooks, so I have to go bug them. But I will come back. I might even have it somewhere. I know I made $1,000 in my business with some new clients that first month, and I think I like doubled it after that point. I was almost there, but some family circumstances came up with my mental health of my then husband. And I was like, I can't do this anymore. I have to hurry this up. So I did what I had to do. And I'm like, I'm giving my notice now. I can't do this anymore. And then I had 2 months to finish my job as a PA and get my income up. And I did. I might have even passed it. I don't remember. And I knew at that point then during those 2 months that I was making at least enough to pay for those 4 walls. And that at that point I had started to get a rhythm. I had started to get a rhythm with like creating content and having sales calls and converting clients and getting into like the kind of work that I really wanted to do. And I had started doing podcast work. And at the time I really fell in love with that. And I called it my nerd creativity. That's what it felt like for me. And I was really enjoying it. It was going really well. I was getting clients referring other people to me, and it just kind of started to take off. And so when I finished my job at the as PA, then I was already having people coming in the door, right? Of like, all right, more and more and more. And actually really quickly, and within the next couple of months, I want to say I got up to that 6K mark. Now I will say, what I learned in that phase of my business, and that's probably a conversation for another day, is I got up to the 6K mark, but I also was working more than I wanted. I was working closer to 30 hours a week, and I wanted to be working less than I had been before. So that's when I started learning to delegate and change prices and took on my first team members and all that jazz. And that's I don't want to go on too big of a tangent, but it just kind of continued to grow from there. And obviously I scaled back my hours because I had to reposition my priorities and remember my priorities, I guess, and learn some lessons about delegating and boundaries and charging what I actually needed to charge and what I deserved to charge for that. All of this is stuff I work with clients on all the time. So if any of that's resonating with you, come talk to me and let me know, because that's not how I roll anymore. Right. And this is not, I help my clients to overcome those things and to be making more money while working less and feeling more boundaried so that you can have that separation between work and family life if that's what you desire, which can be extra hard when you are working from home, from your bedroom like me, or your living room like a client of mine, or whatever. Okay, all that to say, let me pull back and make sure I didn't miss anything, because I think I did. Okay, kind of back to the intentionality part. When I was kind of trying to plan how am I going to fit this business in while I was still working, I talked a little bit already about the time frame, but I also I put in there, my PA work. And like I said, I didn't call it this, but like the part where I was like, okay, I'm momming here and I'm momming hard here. Like there's like non-negotiable mom time, right? Something that I found really helpful at the time, because I was burning the candle at both ends, as they say, and this is not long-term sustainable schedule, right, for me. But it was in this season necessary and worth it. That I also made sure to put in at least one chunk a week for me time or for some self-care. And that was at first, a couple of hours, like one day a week. And I also put in one time a week for time with my then husband to make sure that was still there. And I just kind of made those non-negotiable of like, okay, I'm going to work around this, right? And so when you break this down and look at how much time you have, I want you to try and accept whatever time that is. And like I said, for me, it was only 10 to 12 hours a week. I've had clients in the 10 hours or less a week boat, right? And you just get to put blinders on and decide okay, how am I going to figure this out? How am I going to do this? And this is the time that I have. And I decide that I'm going to figure it out. I decide that I can figure it out in this many hours. You might need help. You might need support. Like I needed a coach. And that's why one of the big reasons why I do what I do now, right? Because I love coaching other women and helping other women and getting there faster and smoother and easier than I did. And I do have a couple of one-on-one spots open. So if you're interested, come talk to me, but let's have a free call. If you are, just kind of want to have a chat and want my eyes on some things, let's start there. I feel like I lost my train of thought. I kind of already said this part, right? If you have any clients at this point, get clear on how long it takes you to serve one client, like a week, whatever. And then you do the math. If you don't have a client yet, you can just guess and you can change it as you get your first client, right? Actually, that's one of my favorite. I love serving women at all different phases, but I really love the beginning phase where, I've helped clients in the past where they've been kind of like where I was in the beginning, where like I was just kind of floating around and trying and not really getting anywhere. I've had clients come to me where they've been trying to market and trying to get clients for months or even a year and hadn't signed a paying client yet. And then when we're working together, they sign their first client and their second client. And it's just like, it's so exciting. And I love that phase. And I love hearing too, when they're like, okay, like I actually have more time. I can like do these sports things on the weekend with my kids or go to practice with them now. It just lights me up. So you're going to do the math, right? How many clients can you realistically serve in the time you have? And look at the pricing. We kind of talked about that already. So you figure out, can you serve the number of clients you need to get to that minimum number? If not, get support, right? Come talk to me, get support from a coach, and help you figure out like what needs tweaked, right? Okay. Here's another part about intentionality that I wanted to say. You're already holding a lot, right? As a mother, and at your other job, and trying to expand and grow into this new business. And I mean, I will say that I feel like I've talked about this before, and I feel like everybody I know that's in my same boat agrees with me. So let me know if this resonates with you. But I feel like parenting and entrepreneurship have been like the biggest stretchers for me of like growth, the biggest opportunities for growth. And growth is beautiful and it's what we're supposed to do, but it's not easy, right? Because it brings us into something uncomfortable. And that's the same if you're if you're changing anything, right? If you're like always been unhealthy and you're overweight and you're really trying to lead a holistic, healthy lifestyle and change that so that you can be healthier, like you're breaking old patterns and, you've got to stay focused. And maybe you're going into, dating and like really trying to be intentional with dating. If you're, I guess I would say, as I'm speaking to you, if you're like in my boat and you're a single parent, and you're trying to do things differently and be really intentional and, not attract the same partner that you attracted before, all these things take time. Right. And so those are all big changes, and you're going to get the furthest in any of those changes. This one we're speaking about is moving into your business, like growing your business so that you can leave your, or not have to rely fully on your day job, corporate job, is if you're pouring most of your effort into one new goal at a time, right? So while you can be making some small changes in other things, it's probably not going to be as quick as you'd like if you're trying to, all right, I'm trying to start this new business and change and, and leave my job. So I'm trying to change careers and learn how to have a business. And I'm trying to overhaul my health and lose weight. And I'm trying to, focus on serious dating or like deep marriage repair and, right? Like you have enough on your plate, like pick one for this season. And if right now one of those other things needs to be a priority, that's fine. Give yourself permission to put this business part like on pause or just let it be slow. And then when that feels stable, then you can focus on this one. or focus on this and just know that like you can push slower on the other things, like whatever feels like it's a priority, like just know this is just a season, right? Okay. Last few things on intentionality. Okay. And I have a post I wrote about this. So I guess I'll just post this tomorrow, but basically, you don't have a whole lot of time, right? So I want your time and your business to be intentional. And this is what I would focus on. I do always recommend mindset work. It doesn't have to be long. It can be 5 minutes, it can be 15 minutes, and it can be reading something that's inspirational. It can be listening to affirmations or writing affirmations. I have an episode on my podcast about this with some affirmations if you need one. It can be journaling and doing some prompts. It can be whatever, right? It doesn't have to be long. It can be just writing gratitudes or future gratitudes, or you can call them brags. Like I have a ton of tools here. Mindset is my jam. And if you want more information on this, or there's something you have a question about, or you want me to do a training on, just drop it in the comments and let me know, and I will do a training for you. But mindset is a business activity. That is what I would consider and have to put yourself in there, because it's a big flex. You need to be able to be in a good headspace to be able to grow and to show up and do this work, right? And so it doesn't necessarily have to be first, although I do like to do it first most of the time. Just consider it a business activity, right? So even if it's only 5 minutes, doing something to help your mindset is going to help. The other part, I'd say priority focus. The other priority focus should be sales. So the key thing, like I mentioned, is to like talk to more people, right? If you want to sell more, you have to sell more, right? So you have to talk to more people. And the key is building relationships. So genuine human interaction, right? Build relationships, right? That's how like you let people get to know you and what you do and how to work with you, and like let them get to know you, right? That's how somebody will choose to work with you over somebody else. And that can feel really scary and vulnerable for sure when you're coming out of a corporate situation where usually we're taught not to let any of our personality come into our job, right? And this role does this, right? But in this space, there are more than enough clients for all of us to have a full load of clients. And one person will resonate with somebody because they just do, because they think that you get them or they get you, right? Those of you that are in my audience, you're usually here because you resonate with me, because I tend to be kind of like, I'm kind of like the girl next door, kind of just, I don't usually wear a ton of makeup, if any. And like I've got messes everywhere and I just real life stuff, and I've got 2 kids and all the things, right? Versus like, and that's cool. And that's not better or worse than anything else. But, there are other coaches who do similar to what I do, but maybe they're more like they're curling their hair every day and they've always got makeup and eyelashes, big eyelashes, and they're really dressed nice, and they've got 1 kid and they've got a nanny and they work full time or whatever. None of this is right or wrong. It's just like there are certain people that are going to be like resonate with and be like, that's the person that gets me. I get her. And somebody that gets me gets, and feels like I can get them as well, and all the different flavors, right? So it's just learning to, it might even be just as little as like, I have kids, and sharing about that you have kids, because honestly, moms want to work with other moms often because they know that you get it, right? So I want to say you can practice in here, and I want you guys to practice in here in this group. Practice in here, start in here. If you haven't already, you can carry this over to other groups, to other platforms or whatever, but practice I encourage you to even just, if you're in the group, just say hi, just post it. Don't even have to have a picture, and you can just say, hi, here's my name, this is what I do, and let's get started, right? Or, and if somebody else posts something, posting a comment on it, I would like a real genuine human comment, not like just emojis, right? Sorry, excuse me. Yeah, you can be, so a sales thing, right? Oh, as far as posting in here, right? Don't forget, maybe somebody in this group needs what you do. right? Or they know somebody that needs what you do. So share it. Sales activity can be writing a sales post. It can be having conversations with people and engaging with people. It can be having sales calls, right? And then the other decision thing was kind of like, and the other priority is if you have clients, to like really serve the shit out of your clients that you do have, right? Because that's really important. So client work is a priority also for any clients that you do have. Serving them well will serve you well, and they'll be more likely to refer people. I did also, because I didn't have a ton of time to be like online and posting and all the things as I was, newer, is as soon as you get one client, you can ask that client, hey, and I did this, and this is like all of my podcast clients stemmed from like one, you can call her grandma client, I guess, my first client, and then referred, and then she referred, and etc. And just say, hey, I love working with you, and I am looking for new clients, and I like to honestly give a bonus. So like, even though I wasn't charging a ton at the beginning, I'd said, hey, I'll give you $50 towards off your next month or whatever if you refer me somebody that becomes a client. And sometimes I would double it as things got bigger, but actually that was like the majority way that I grew my podcast agency, was by referrals and by offering a pretty small bonus as a thank you, right? Because then I didn't have to rely on a ton of time finding cold leads. Like, it made people come in that were already warm, that like in the online space, especially if somebody doesn't get a chance to know you, if they know somebody that they trust and they say, hey, I trust Kim, or I trust, so-and-so, and like they do my thing, it's going to be such an easy sale for you, right? So don't minimize that and don't miss that, especially as a mom or a busy parent, like working, even if you're out of your corporate job and you're working in just your business, that is a really valuable tool to save you some time and bring you clients that you want. And I made a post, I think yesterday or the day before, about this, but stepping into choice and that decision when you're starting to feel like comparisonitis and like, like I don't have time. Like, if you find yourself feeling like, this is never going to happen because I can't work full time, or like, must be nice to not also have to work another job or whatever. I'm never going to be able to do this, right? If you can take that and flip it to something more like, okay, I am choosing, right, to do this for myself. Maybe I'm choosing to work less in my business in this season because being really present mom is really important to me. And because maintaining the financial stability from my other career is important to me until I build this up. And I know that I can still get great results, and I'm okay if it needs to take a little bit longer because of those decisions, but I can still get great results. Something to that effect, right? Just it comes back to stepping into and returning to that decision and that choice. I think I really talked about everything here. If you have any questions, drop them in the comments or send me a DM and let me know. And I will drop a link to book a free call if anybody is interested to hop on a free call. We can just talk, coach. I can do some, I'm just rambling. I'll drop a link so you can book a call and we can chat through what's going on in your business and the transition that you need to make. And if you just need another set of eyes on it and see maybe like the one area to focus on next, or maybe just help give you some clarity on the possibility of it, or how to put this together, or how to start, or what needs to shift if it feels like it's not working, come talk to me. I'd love to talk to you. So with that, thanks for hanging in with me. I will be around, of course. And if you do watch it on the replay and comment in the video, I will answer or comment in the comments, ask questions in the comments. It's been a long day. I will circle back and answer any questions that you have. So I will be back for another conversation next week. Like I said, next week I'm going to plan to do a super vulnerable behind the scenes of the transition for me, and what happened, why I'm not running a multi six figure agency anymore. I am doing a small handful of podcast clients on the side. And, you know, if you saw my story the other day, you see that right now at this phase of my life, I'm doing like 5 mini part-time jobs that all allow me the flexibility to be home with my kids as I'm rebuilding things in this new phase, rebirth phase of my life after divorce. And I'm going to go a little bit more into that next week. So I will see you then.